Hello from the Gold Coast of Australia. I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. It is October 24th, 2025. Reminder, we've got a show in Brisbane in a couple days on the 27th. DaveRubin.com/events if you'd like to join us. And it's been just continued greatness here. I'm just having such a blast. The team's having a great time. A lot of great events, live shows. We're doing some private events. Took a nice walk on the beach this morning. It's just been great. I did a debate last night at the Concilium conference with legendary BBC journalist Andrew Neil, and it was about old media versus new media. And he obviously was on the old media side. I was on the new media side. It got a little testy, actually, and I think we're going to put the full thing up on our channel in a couple days. Am I right? Am I making that up? Maybe we will. I'm completely making it up, but maybe we can get something on social media. Okay, I think there was video. Well, why do we have all these cameras? We'll see. But anyway, it was fun. Yeah, Australia has just been fantastic. We're going to catch up on everything going on in the United States. Some actually particularly interesting stuff happening at the moment, but most of it to the backdrop of what seems like a slow-moving truck about to crash, a slow-moving jihadi truck about to crash into New York City unless a miracle happens. And of course, that is Zohran Mamdani, the communist, as I've been saying, with the dash of jihad, who likely is going to be the next mayor of New York City. But maybe a miracle can happen. And we were talking about it at breakfast this morning. It's like, if they can beat this guy, if the polls are wrong and he loses, what a great win it would be for America and capitalism, and a signal that would be sent out not only across America, but to the world that we've had enough of this nonsense. We're not going to go down the road that the UK has gone and so many other Western nations have gone. So let's pray, let's hope. But more than anything else, people do have to vote. So they had a second mayoral debate last night, and Andrew Cuomo, the disgraced former governor who had to step down in a sex scandal, which was completely separate from his scandal around killing all the old people in COVID when he sent them back into the homes. He's just shown no juice in this. Like, the guy needs some Viagra injected directly into his brain. He's just showing nothing. He's shown no excitement, no desire. Finally, last night, he had a nice moment.
You have never had a job. You've never accomplished anything. There's no reason to believe you have any merit or qualification for 8.5 million lives. You don't know how to run a government. You don't know how to handle an emergency. And you've literally never proposed a bill on anything that you're now talking about in your campaign. You had the worst attendance record in the assembly. And you gave yourselves the highest raise in the United States of America. You went from $110,000 to $140,000, and then you never showed up for work and you missed 80% of the votes. Shame on you. Shame on you.
Andrew Cuomo, welcome to the party, pal. Thank you. Where have you been? There's a couple other lines you could have leveled him with, but that was pretty good. You suddenly were like, oh my God, I'm about to lose to this guy. And the greatest city in the history of the world is about to become a communist shithole. So I'm glad you finally got there. And I pray that enough New Yorkers watch that, realize how close they are getting to the precipice of something really, really terrible. But he just laid it out there. Never really had a job. What was Mamdani's job before this? What gives him any qualification to run the most important city of the world, which, as Cuomo pointed out, has about 8 million people? There is no qualification. What's the merit? There's none. What are his actual accomplishments? What has this guy done other than being a Nepo baby, who's got the soft lens and the lo-fi music and all the slick production? What has he done? He says the right things. If you like communism, everything's for free, but he's never actually done anything. What else? He's never handled an emergency. That was quite good. New York City, a city that has been through some emergencies over the years, right? We're only 24 years to the backdrop of 9/11, and we might be voting this guy in. That he never had one major piece of legislation passed in the New York State Senate. That's also interesting, even as a legislator. So if you go, okay, well, he never had a real job, never accomplished anything there, but he's been in the New York State legislature, never did anything there, missed 80% of the votes. This guy, like AOC, is the perfect progressive. He's never done anything, has no qualifications for anything, but I suppose they feel he looks the part and he's young and he's slick and he smiles as he ushers in something really, really terrible. So congratulations, Cuomo. I don't know where you've been for the last few months. And again, I think it's the third time now, maybe fourth time I've said it in 3 minutes. Pray, and if you're in New York City, vote. Here, Zohran explains most of his policies are around how he's going to make everything for free and everything else, but then there's all the defund the police stuff, and here he is on what the 911 dispatchers should do.
What my opponents are clinging to is the past, because that's all that they know. What I am proposing is something that will address the needs of New Yorkers in the present. We speak and hear from New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs who outline how the mental health crisis is one of the major challenges in this city. And yet what we have in our city is asking those same police officers who are being asked to respond to shootings, respond to murders, to also respond to these calls. I trust the dispatchers who would be receiving these calls to make the determination as to whether there was any indication of violence. If there is no indication of a threat of violence, then we would set the mental health experts and providers to respond to those same incidents.
Okay, again, everything he says, perfect progressive, thin veneer, and what's underneath is very nasty. It sort of sounds right. How much should the police be doing? But then you are putting an awful lot of pressure on the dispatchers who are just taking the calls to have to make gut decisions on whether it should be police or one of his Sharia neighborhood-friendly watchers who you are sending to the house. And that is a problem, an absolute problem. Also, that he's going around New York City and people are talking about their mental health problems. I have to tell you something. I used to see this in Los Angeles all the time when I lived there. There were always these billboards about like the Los Angeles Center for Mental Health. And it's like, if you have mental health problems and you think the city of Los Angeles or the city of New York is going to solve your mental health problems, well, then you actually do have a mental health problem. It's just not going to be solved by them. I thought this was quite good. This is New York City Councilwoman Vicky Palladino on what Zohran just said right there. She wrote, tasking 911 operators with determining the level of violence a caller is experiencing and possibly not sending police based on that snap judgment is completely unhinged and will get people killed. A lot of 911 calls are from people who are desperate for police and experiencing imminent violence, but try to maintain their composure because they're terrified, particularly domestic violence calls and robberies. But it could be anyone trying to hold it together long enough to make the call. Saying that police should not be dispatched based on a snap third-party over-the-phone assessment is reckless beyond words. Right, we all know that, right? When someone calls 911 and the husband is about to beat them or robbers have broke in, the idea that someone on the other end of the line, who probably is not a very highly paid and not necessarily highly qualified person, has to then make a quick snap judgment, and then you're going to have to freaking pray whether it is some community organizer who shows up at your door, a little social worker with a nice bag of gummies, or if it's actually a police officer who you can help. So again, every single thing this guy does is, I would say misguided, but I think he is intentionally trying to implode the city. Here is Cuomo again. Suddenly, he's like, oh, I guess I've been running for mayor. Maybe I should say something. Maybe I should show a little passion. Here he is saying that Mamdani will do nothing about anti-Semitism, which I would say this is as obvious as you can possibly get.
What I will tell New Yorkers today, which is that I will be the mayor who doesn't just protect Jewish New Yorkers, but also celebrates and cherishes them, who doesn't just increase funding to hate crime prevention programs by 800%, who doesn't just ensure that the NYPD are outside of synagogues and temples on the high holy days, but also actually delivers on the implementation of the Hidden Voices curriculum in our school system, so that children in this city learn about the beauty and the breadth of the Jewish experience right here in the 5 boroughs.
Okay, I've got a different. Yeah, but can I just comment on that, please? Not everything is a TikTok video. You're the savior of the Jewish people. You won't denounce globalize the intifada, which means kill Jews. There's unprecedented fear in New York. It was not several rabbis, Errol. It was 650 rabbis who signed the letter, not several.
Yeah, welcome to the party, pal Cuomo. Where have you been this entire time? First off, I've made the point, so we don't have to belabor it, about what Mamdani's kind of jihad-adjacent feelings are. And we played the clip yesterday of his imam who literally was calling New York City a shithole and all of that other stuff. The fact that this is all happening, again, 24 years after 9/11 statement is so absolutely extraordinary and bizarre. The globalize the Intifada slogan that he will not condemn, as Cuomo points out, that means kill Jews everywhere. But it doesn't mean just kill Jews. When you start globalizing the Intifada, buses blow up, suicide bombs blow up, and a whole bunch of other people will die in New York City and die in terror attacks all over the world. He also will march with the very people who are saying from the river to the sea. They don't know what river, they don't know what sea, but you'd have to wipe out about 10 million Jews to do it. So if you're a Jew and you vote for this guy, you're a fucking moron. And if you're a regular non-Jew in New York City and you vote for this guy, you're just a regular moron. I'm giving the extra F to the Jew who votes for this guy. Wake up, please. Here's Zohran. They were asked about it, because New York City has ranked choice voting. So you get to vote for who you want as number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. And here they are talking about who they will vote for in ranked choice.
If there was a ranked choice election?
In this. You'd have to rank these.
Myself, number 1, and Curtis, number 2.
Mr. Sliwa.
Oh, please don't be glazing me here, Zohran.
All right, so that's actually pretty funny by Sliwa, and he said glazed, and you guys, I thought it was a donut-related joke, but glazed means like when you're blowing somebody up, not Mamdani blowing people up, you know what I mean, when you're just like lauding somebody, you're puffing them up, as we used to say, something like that. But here's the real issue. So why would Mamdani say that? Why would he say, I would vote for me number 1, and I would vote for Sliwa number 2? And the reason is he knows Sliwa has 0, not 1, not 2, not 4, 0% chance of winning. But the amount of votes that he has, if they move to Cuomo, we might have a competitive election here. So look at this. I mean, this is sort of depressing, but it's the state of the state. This is from Eyal Yacobi on Twitter. A new poll shows what it would look like if Cuomo drops out versus Sliwa dropping out. So if it was Sliwa versus Mamdani, Sliwa would get about 31.5% and Mamdani would get 46.8%. If it was Cuomo versus Mamdani, Cuomo would get 40.7 and Mamdani would get 44.6. That's pretty freaking close. And then Jacoby comments, Cuomo currently has the best chance of saving New York City from communism. So look, Sliwa, who I've only said really nice things about on the show, I think he is a decent man. I think he's a decent New Yorker. I remember him as a child, part of the Guardian Angels, defending the subways against all sorts of lawlessness when there were bad administrations in New York City. He's a lifelong New Yorker. He's got a sense of humor. He strikes me as pretty authentic, all of those things. But he has no chance of winning. And this is a huge problem because if there's any chance to stop this communist, and then once this guy takes over in New York City, you will watch it scale throughout cities in America. This is exactly what happened in the UK. Then Sliwa has to drop out, but he's showing no signs that he's dropping out. Bill Ackman, big tech guy who we've talked about in the past, he wrote this. I thought this was interesting. He wrote, I spoke to someone who knows Curtis Sliwa, and now I understand why he's staying in the race. The city has an 8-to-1 matching program for New York City donors. Sliwa got $5 million of matching funds from the city for his campaign. According to my source, Sliwa's wife, friends, and others are on the campaign payroll, and he and they are enjoying living off the city taxpayers who are funding his race/lifestyle. He doesn't want to end his campaign and have to return the funds. Follow the money. When I asked why he doesn't care about New York City, my source said he doesn't give a shit. Clearly this is hearsay, but my source is extremely credible and a highly respected person, and he knows Sliwa well. Curtis, please correct the record if I got anything wrong. What personal or other related expenses is your campaign paying for? Is your wife and or other family or friends on the campaign payroll or receiving any funding? Please clarify the record. So look, I can't speak to the truth of that any more than Ackman lays out right there, but it is possible that Sliwa is enjoying having some friends and family on the payroll. You're getting these 8-to-1 matching funds from the city, which seems absolutely absurd. You might want to argue a city should match dollar to dollar, but 8-to-1 seems completely crazy. So look, is it as simple as that? Like he's got some friends and family making some money right now and that's why he's staying in? I would try not to go down that road. But I think it's worth mentioning. And the road that I would go down is we must stop the communist jihadist. So if we are going to do that, and if we are going to continue to be the United States of America and have New York be our most important city, which it has been for so long, despite everything that's been wrong with it for the last 10 or so years, then this guy has to be stopped. It's as simple as that. So Sliwa, you really need to think about this. I get why you don't want to drop out, and I get why you don't like Cuomo, and I get why there's down ballot, he's running as a Republican, and there's down ballot things there that you don't want to screw over. But at the end of the day, this is it. But let's put a pin in that for the moment, because I did see this yesterday, and there are places that are thriving in America, and maybe we don't talk about them enough. I talk about this place a lot. Yes, I'm going back to Florida for just a second, because my governor, Ron DeSantis, who, as you know, says that decline is a choice, has decided that we will not decline in Florida, and we are a law and order state. We're number one in education. We're number one in safety. We're number one in incoming new voters, new constituents. Our infrastructure is spectacular. We're getting all the New York City police officers who don't want to be there anymore. And finally, it looks like Ron DeSantis will get property tax eliminated. We are already a no income tax state, right? And now also you will have to stop paying a penalty. If this all works out the way he's pushing for it, you will have to stop paying a penalty, a tax, just for owning your home.
Your personal home, you shouldn't rent it from the government. You should own it. And, you're paying taxes for 50 years, but even for young families, it's become very difficult across this country to make ends meet. Wouldn't it be great if they were able to have home ownership without having the burden of property tax that? So that's coming to a ballot near you in November of 2026, and we need 60% of Florida voters to do it. And I think it's going to be very popular, but it's also something that's not an easy bar to reach.
And that's what democracy is all about, right? The governor's telling you what he wants to do. He's laying it out clearly, right? He wants less tax burden to be on young families so that they can thrive. And in essence, we know when you buy a house, if you're paying property taxes every year, in some sense, he's right. You're renting your house from the government, even though you own it. Now, you might say, well, the government needs that money. Well, there's a couple things going on here. First off, we have incredibly efficient budgets in Florida. We don't waste money on nonsensical programs like most things. We don't have a bunch of free stuff, which isn't actually free. And also, we have a huge amount of incoming tax because every single year, I think for the last at least 6 years, we have had record tourism in Florida, or at least every year's post-COVID has been record tourism. So we're getting the sales tax. So this is where not only is it's I would say ideologically just good, but if you're an OG Floridian, think what's happened in Florida as the house prices have increased because all these new people have come in and there's all this competition around buying houses. So you're an OG Floridian. You did it right for years. You voted the right way. You lived a good life. And then all the houses around you, prices are going up. So your house price goes up. Well, that's kind of nice. But if every year now you have to pay taxes on that increased value, you're paying more and more and more every year for doing the right thing, for living an honest, decent life and voting the right way. So those people should not be punished. And we are going to push for that in Florida. And I leave that there because it just juxtaposes America is going in two different ways, two different directions. Capitalism and freedom, communism and control, and you got to decide which one you want to be part of. Listen to this story. This is wild. I just saw this one this morning. It's breaking right now. There's a massive gambling scandal breaking from the NBA, the National Basketball Association, of which if had my life gone a little bit differently, I would have been a superstar, 12-time All-Star, 5-time starter, voted in by the fans, 7 times by the coaches. But in any event, here's Kash Patel talking about what's going on here.
Individuals such as Chauncey Billups, Damon Jones, and Terry Rozier were taken into custody today, former, current NBA players and coaches. What you don't know is that this is an illegal gambling operation and sports rigging operation that spanned the course of years. The FBI led a coordinated takedown across 11 states to arrest over 30 individuals today responsible for this case, which is very much ongoing. Not only did we crack into the fraud that these perpetrators committed on the grand stage of the NBA, but we also entered and executed a system of justice against La Casa Nostra to include the Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese crime families.
Man, I mean, this sounds like something right out of a Scorsese movie, right? But yes, it seems like a bunch of NBA players were shaving points via faking injuries and some other stuff that we will find out. And this is a massive, massive scandal. Here's New York City Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch on one of the specific participants.
One example occurred on March 23rd, 2023 in Charlotte. Terry Rozier, an NBA player now with the Miami Heat, but at the time playing for the Hornets, allegedly let others close to him know that he planned to leave the game early with a supposed injury. Using that information, members of the group placed more than $200,000 in wagers on his under statistics. Rozier exited the game after just 9 minutes, and those bets paid out, generating tens of thousands of dollars in profit. The proceeds were later delivered to his home, where the group counted their cash. As the NBA season tips off, his career is already benched, not for injury, but for integrity. As a result of this investigation, 6 defendants, including Rozier, are now facing conspiracy to commit bank and wire fraud.
Okay, so it seems to me we're going to find out more about this. We're going to find out what some other players did, and maybe there's some big name people that were helping them do this. You know, in essence, point shaving or at least stat shaving. You understand what they did there. He basically faked an injury 9 minutes into the game so that his stats would be under. So they bet under, meaning he only played 9 minutes. He couldn't score 30 points. They bet on that. They cash in. Now, what's crazy about this is all these NBA players make tons and tons of money. So the idea that he was harming his career by being like, I'll only play 9 minutes and my stats will go down. Like, I don't know how much cash he was getting, but that seems pretty short-sighted if you're this Rozier guy. But this gives me a good excuse to show you one of my favorite plays ever in the NBA. This is Clyde the Glide Drexler, 1994, first round playoffs against the Houston Rockets. And tell me this is not the sweetest finger roll you ever done see.
One-on-one with Ori. Gets a step, takes it, the finger roll. Oh, my goodness. It seemed like he lost it in air. Baby. Gave it another tap. Oh, you gotta love that.
One thing he can do is finger roll. All right, let's jump over to California for just a second, because there's another story. You know, we've covered a couple of these things where illegals get into California and then they get driver's licenses, which they should not have. They should not be in the country in the first place. They should not have health insurance or anything else, but they get driver's licenses and then well, horrible things happen. Listen to this from Fox, and we're going to show you the video as I'm reading the information. It's pretty wild. An illegal immigrant truck driver accused in the deadly DUI crash was released under the Biden administration in 2022 after crossing the U.S.-Mexico border. Police say Jashanpret Singh was speeding and under the influence, never hitting his brakes when he crashed into slow-moving traffic on the freeway. 3 people are now dead. He has been arrested on suspicion of gross vehicular manslaughter while intoxicated. ICE has placed an immigration detainer following his arrest. I mean, the images right there, you're seeing them yourselves. They're quite horrific. This guy should not have been in the country. The Biden administration let this people in. We know about the revolving door. Then Gavin Newsom goes ahead and gives them commercial driver's licenses. It's just scandal on top of scandal on top of scandal on top of scandal. Here's Caroline Levitt on what's going on.
Do you know if California gave him a commercial driver's license? And then it also appears that California largely has not been cooperating with English proficiency standards. I'm wondering if the administration has any further plans to punish the state.
Yes, I can confirm that California gave this individual a license, and it is something that the Department of Transportation has already looked into. I know men and women of ICE are outstanding people. I wish a Democrat on Capitol Hill would actually have the courage or the guts to stand up to their party and sit down with some of these men and women who are doing this incredibly difficult job of enforcing our federal immigration laws. Democrats should focus a little bit more on that. Stop trying to fight this president and this administration on every turn and restore law and order. That's all that we and these brave men and women of ICE are trying to do.
Yeah, that's the truth. And the idea that Cali's giving not only just driver's licenses, which in and of itself would be patently absurd, but commercial driver's licenses. And then this guy is drunk and or high and does not brake as he slams into these cars and 3 people die. And it's not the only instance of it. And somehow the Democrats and the mainstream media want you to think that ICE is the bad guys, but ICE are not the bad guys. Here's Tom Homan.
I hate saying this, but I'm going to say it because I truly believe it's a matter of time before an ICE agent's ambushed and killed. because we're letting people know where enforcement activities are occurring. And they're looking for the worst of the worst. The last thing we want to do is give a bad guy, the worst of the worst, a heads up that ICE is down the street. This is going to get an officer killed. You know, I go to bed every night, and I pray for every man and woman of ICE and Border Patrol to go home safe to their families. I buried too many ICE agents in my career and Border Patrol agents. This has to stop. So Pam Bonnie's all over us. I know the DOJ's all over this. We'll hold people accountable. This cannot happen. It's disgusting. I can't believe what's going on in this nation today. I wake up every morning in disbelief that people want to call the law enforcement officers the bad guys and the criminal public safety threats the victims. It's ridiculous. It's all upside down. But we're going to keep doing this job and keep President Trump's promise to American people.
I would say that's a perfect illustration of why I always say he will play himself in the movie about himself. But of course, that's right. They've got half of America apparently thinking that the guys who are trying to clean up the streets, get the illegals out, make sure that, I don't know, drunk, intoxicated illegals who are on a rotating cavalcade, a carousel of coming in and out of the country and then killing people here, actually have to leave the country. And you can see he deeply, deeply cares about the men and women who are in ICE, who are in federal law enforcement, who are just decent people trying to do their job. So look, we have a serious administration. We have a serious federal administration for the first time, and they're doing everything they can to clean up the place to the backdrop of blue cities, which are just continually going the wrong way. And in many cases created the problem by having sanctuary cities and everything else. But I want to end with this other story about the narco terrorists who are being blown out of the water right now. If you bring fentanyl, meth, what do the kids call it? Crank. What else are the kids doing these days? We got the fentanyl, the meth, the crank, the spunk.
The geek bars.
The geek bars. Did you just make that up? Is that a thing? The geek bars. That's a thing? How do you know about that? All right, we'll talk about that after the show. But they're bringing a lot of crap over, and they're killing our kids, and they're ruining our cities. And Trump has decided you can't bring the geek bars over anymore, and we're going to blow you up if you do it. This is from Eric Daughtry on Twitter. President Trump and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth just blew another narco-terrorist boat out of the water. Hegseth: these strikes will continue day after day. The Department of War carried out yet another lethal kinetic strike on a vessel operated by a designated terrorist organization. Yet again, the now deceased terrorists were engaged in narco trafficking in the Eastern Pacific. All three terrorists were killed and no U.S. forces were harmed in the strike. These are not simply drug runners. They are narco terrorists bringing death and destruction to our cities. These DTOs are the Al-Qaeda of our hemisphere and will not escape justice. We will find them and kill them until the threat to the American people is extinguished. So before I get to the Democrat reaction, and yes, you can get it, they're taking the sides of the narco terrorists. You know, if you do this a couple times, if you blow up a couple boats with the, the geek bars and the crank bars and all the other stuff, if you do it a couple times, then the guys in Venezuela or wherever they're coming from, they're less inclined to do it again. So sometimes you just send a signal out to the geek bar people and they're less inclined to, I really need to know what this is. It's something, I don't know why you're looking at me like that. Something's weird with the geek bar. Stay off the drugs, kids. That's the real point. And because if you don't, you might end up like Cory Booker.
When we took the extrajudicial step to blow up speedboats, there has been no oversight into that claimed attack on people that were allegedly smuggling drugs. We are constantly not doing our job, which is not a partisan one. It is to hold this president in check, that no one operates without accountability and without transparency, because power is corrupting.
All right. So first off, I'd like to congratulate Cory Booker. You're usually crying when we show clips of you, so that's very impressive. Also, I don't know if he had peed recently, but this is a man who once didn't pee for 11 hours or something like that. That's also exciting. Joseph just handed me his phone. Apparently, this is a geek bar. It's for vaping, but I have a feeling what they're bringing over is probably a little more intense than the geek bar or the dork dab or whatever else there is out there. But okay, so that's Cory Booker once. And it's like, you know, so let's say there's a boat speeding from Venezuela, and let's pretend it doesn't have geek bars on it or meth or whatever. It's like, why are they speeding to the United States? You can't do that. We're going to blow you up. You know what I mean? Like, we've just decided to protect our borders. So whether there are drugs on it or not, why are you with such righteous indignation as opposed to this, which is the proper response?
Yeah, well, I mean, the question is, bottom line, these are drug boats. If people want to stop seeing drug boats blow up, stop sending drugs to the United States.
Does it matter if it's in the United States?
Well, these are all in international waters. The boat.
Do a strike in the United States, or if Northern
Well, that's a different matter. Now you're talking about a law enforcement matter. In this particular case, there are people traveling on international waters headed towards the United States with hostilities in mind, which includes flooding our country with dangerous, deadly drugs. And they're going to be stopped. And that's what's happening. And in the case last week, you saw there was a submarine. It was a submarine. It was a submersible. That's a drug boat all the way through. We know what these boats are. The president just said it. We track them from the very beginning. We know who's on them, who they are, where they're coming from, what they have on them. If you're running drug boats, you're in grave danger.
Guys, I'm not kidding at this point. We are never going to have a better administration than this. Maybe we will. Maybe we will in the future in some way that I can't really imagine. But look at those three guys who are right there. Donald Trump, who has set the agenda. Marco Rubio, who clearly his entire life led to being Secretary of State. Pete Hegseth, running the Department of War now, who's an unbelievable communicator, and he's getting all the DEI crap out and everything else. And they're taking things seriously. They closed the border. They're blowing up drug boats, and you've got Cory Booker upset about it. It's patently absurd, and that's why we have a party of common sense, and you might not agree with every single thing that they do or every single policy prescription, but they are at least on planet Earth, and then you got bananas people. But the culture has shifted. So to end the show, look at this image. This is Time Magazine this week, Trump's world, and there's Trump looking badass and cool at the Oval Office, sitting at the desk that I believe is the same desk that Bill Clinton once took a cigar and stuck it in an intern at. But that tells you something. They're realizing we cannot fight this guy relentlessly and say all the worst things about him all the time, because the average person is realizing there is something good going on here. And I have to say, while I'm thousands and thousands of miles on the other side of the world from the United States of America, it's nice to see that some good things are happening at home. If you are in New York City, tell your friends, do not vote for Mamdani. Vote for Cuomo. Suck it up. So what? He killed your grandma. Get over it. Vote for... That should have been his motto. I killed your grandma, but I'm better than the communist. What can we do? Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you on Monday.